You did not lose your feelings. You put them somewhere safe. And then, you forgot where that was. Someone tells you something that should hurt, and you notice yourself registering it from a distance. Like watching weather through a window you cannot open. Something good happens, genuinely good, and you wait for the feeling to arrive. It doesn't. Or it arrives late, muted, like a signal from somewhere far away. Someone asks if you are okay and you check. You actually check, like reading a gauge, and report back, yes. Fine. Because fine is what the gauge says, and you have learned not to question the gauge. This is not emotional maturity. This is not being calm under pressure. Something specific went quiet inside you. And it went so quietly that you eventually stopped noticing it was gone. This video is about what it was. And what it cost you to lose it. If you have spent your whole life being told you are calm, measured, difficult to read, and somewhere underneath that description there is something that does not quite fit, this channel exists for exactly that gap. Because calm is not always calm. Sometimes calm is what happens when feeling became too dangerous to do. Across these videos we have been following one wound. The gap between how your life looks from the outside and what it actually feels like to be living inside it. In the last video we traced what happened to your wanting. Today we go deeper. Today we trace what happened to your feeling. Because the two are connected, and once you see how, you will understand something about yourself that no amount of self-help has ever quite reached. On the outside you handle things well. People come to you in crisis, because you stay steady. Because you do not fall apart. Because when everything around you is chaos, there is something in you that goes very still and very functional and gets through it. People call this strength. And part of you believes them. And part of you, older, quieter, more tired, knows that the stillness is not strength. It is distance. The distance between you and what is happening. Between you and what you are supposed to be feeling. Between you and the version of yourself that would feel it, if you let it. You have probably been in a moment that was objectively significant, a loss, an ending, a thing that should have broken you open, and felt almost nothing. And then felt strange about feeling nothing. And then felt vaguely guilty for the strangeness. And then got on with things. Because getting on with things is what you do. You have probably been in moments of genuine joy, a person you love, a thing you worked for, a moment that was everything you wanted, and felt the joy arrive at a fraction of what it should have been. Thin. Brief. Gone before you could hold it. And you probably told yourself you were just not a very emotional person. Here is what nobody tells you about that. Not a very emotional person is not a personality type. It is a description of what happens to a nervous system that learned, very early, very thoroughly, that emotions were not safe to have. And so it did the most efficient thing available. It moved them somewhere you could not easily reach. That somewhere, you built it yourself, without knowing you were building it. And I want to show you exactly when the construction began. Because you were there. You remember it. You just do not know yet that is what you are remembering. Here is the moment. You had a feeling. A real one. Big enough to need somewhere to go, somewhere outside yourself, another person, a witness, someone to confirm that what you were feeling was real and legitimate and allowed. And you brought it. The way children bring things, openly, without strategy. Here is what I feel. Here is what is happening inside me. Here it is. And one of two things happened. The feeling was too much. You could feel it landing on the person in front of you as a weight they did not want to carry. The air in the room changed. Something in their face shifted. And you learned, not in words, but in the way the body learns, which is faster and more permanent than words, that what you had brought was a problem. Or the feeling simply was not met. No weight, no shift, no rejection. Just nothing. The feeling went out and came back unchanged. Unreceived. As if you had spoken into a room with no walls. And your nervous system, which had been keeping careful track of what was safe and what was not, updated its records. Feeling, when brought to this person in this environment, leads to one of two outcomes: it becomes a burden, or it disappears into silence. Both are worse than not feeling at all. So the system, efficient, precise, trying to protect you, began moving the feelings somewhere else. Not away. It could not remove them entirely. Feelings are not optional, they are biological, they happen regardless. But it could move them somewhere less accessible. Somewhere you could not accidentally show them. Somewhere safe. It built you a room. A room inside yourself where feelings could go and be, technically present, technically real, but not in the way that would cost you anything. You did not design this room. You did not know it was being built. But you have been living next to it, and occasionally in it, ever since. And here is what nobody who ever tried to explain this to you ever told you. The room was not the problem. The room was the solution. The problem is what living next to a sealed room does to a person, over 10 years, over 20, over a lifetime. That is clue 1. Fast forward. You are older. The room is larger now. More things have been placed in it. And you have become very good at living in the part of yourself that is outside it. You are functional. Highly functional. You think clearly under pressure because pressure does not destabilize you the way it does other people. You make decisions efficiently because you are not clouded by feelings that other people mistake for information. What you do not know, yet, is that feelings are information. The most important information your body has. But that comes later. For now, you have become the person who handles things, who keeps it together, who is described as an old soul, or mature for their age, or remarkably calm. And none of these people know that what they are calling calm is actually the result of a filing system so efficient that most of your emotional life is processed before it reaches your conscious experience. You became the person who does not cry easily, or at all, who feels things in private if they feel them at all, who processes alone, later, in the dark, when the guard comes down slightly, who sometimes, in the car, or in the shower, or in the particular loneliness of 2 a.m., feels something large and unnamed moving through them, and cannot quite catch it, and calls it nothing, because naming it would mean going to the room. Think about the last time you cried. Not from physical pain, from feeling. For some people watching this, they cannot remember. Not because nothing has happened. Because the pipeline between what happens and what gets felt has been routed away from the surface for so long that tears require something extraordinary to break through. And think about what it felt like after, if it happened. Whether there was relief. Whether it felt like something finally getting out rather than something breaking down. That relief, that is your body recognizing what it has been waiting to do. That is not weakness. That is the room, briefly opening. The problem is, it closes again. Quickly. Automatically. Because that is what it was built to do. That is clue 2. Here is the part nobody talks about. The room is not punishment. The room is not proof that something is broken in you. The room is one of the most sophisticated things a human nervous system can build. What Dr. Gabor mate's research on trauma and the body describes, and what has been confirmed across decades of study in developmental psychology, is that emotional suppression is not a failure of feeling. It is a form of intelligence. A child who learns that their emotional expression creates problems in their environment does not stop feeling. They learn to feel privately, to process internally, to run the full experience of an emotion through a system that generates no visible output. This is not repression in the old sense, feelings buried and forgotten. This is something more precise, more architectural. The feelings happen. They are processed. And then they are filed, in a room built specifically to contain them, where they will not cause the problems they caused before. Think about the last time someone asked you how you really felt about something. Not the surface answer. The real one. Notice what happened. For most people watching this, there was a delay. A reaching inward. And then, possibly, a sense of not quite being able to locate the answer. Like looking for something in a room you have not entered in a long time. The answer isn't there. It has always been in there. Your feelings did not disappear. They went to the room. And the room has been filling, quietly, steadily, for years, with everything you felt and filed and did not return to. Your nervous system did not betray you. It protected you. In the only way it knew how. In the only place it knew was safe. Always. That is clue 3. 3 clues. 1 origin. And it has been running since before you had any language for what it was doing to you. You were not born emotionally flat. You were not born disconnected. You were not born with the inability to feel. You were born extraordinarily sensitive, feeling everything, tracking everything, responding to everything with the full capacity of a nervous system that was completely, wholly alive. And that nervous system, in the repeated experience of feeling being unwelcome or unwitnessed or unsafe, did the most loving thing it could think of. It built you somewhere to put it. What you are living with is called childhood emotional neglect. Not abuse. Not a single terrible event. Something quieter than that. The accumulated experience, across years of ordinary days, of having feelings and finding nowhere safe to put them. No one who said, "Tell me." No one who stayed in the room with you while you felt it. No one who reflected your feelings back to you in a way that made them feel real and survivable, and yours to have. And so you built the room, and put the feelings there, and got on with things, and called it being fine. That is what built the distance. That is what has been maintaining it. Every single day since. Now, here is what changes when you know this. The room is not permanent. It was built under specific conditions, conditions that no longer exist in the same way. The person you are now is not the child who built it. You are standing in a different environment, with a different nervous system, with, for the first time, a name for what the room is and why it was built. That naming matters more than it sounds. Because when you know what the room is, when you understand it was built for protection, not imprisonment, you can begin to approach it differently. Not throw it open. Not demolish it. Just stand near the door. And let yourself know the door exists. Tonight, the next time you notice the delay, the reaching inward and finding nothing, the muted response where a real one should be, do not push through it. Do not perform the feeling you think you should have. Just notice the delay. And say, inside, there it is. That is the room. That is the filing system doing what it was built to do. And then, if you can, ask yourself one question. What would I feel right now, if it were safe to feel it? You do not have to answer it fully. You do not have to go to the room. Just ask. That question, asked honestly in the moment, is the beginning of the door opening. Not wide. Not yet. Just a crack. Just enough for something to get through. Notice it has a name. Notice the room was built with love. Notice you do not have to live next to a locked door forever. The next video goes somewhere most people are not ready to go. Because understanding that you built a room for your feelings, and understanding what it meant to live next to it for 20 years, are two different things. The room changed you. Not just what you felt, but how you moved through the world. How you showed up in relationships. What you believed other people were capable of giving you. What you believed you were capable of receiving. The room taught you something specific about closeness. And that lesson, learned in childhood, reinforced 10,000 times since, is still the operating system running underneath every relationship you have ever had. The next video is about that lesson. About what you decided, without deciding, that closeness costs. And why, no matter how much someone loves you, you keep the door locked. From the inside.